National Signing Day, both of them have now come and gone for the 2023 cycle. I want to give you some of my favorite commits and signees for this class that Hugh Freeze has brought together in such a short amount of time. Good morning, Auburn family, and good morning, E2C Network family. Thank you so much for joining us for another edition where we talk about something that's going on in the Auburn family spectrum. We're obviously a day removed from National Signing Day, and so we now know the fate of the 2023 class as it stands as of the editing of this video. So what we want to give you, obviously, as I said, I'm going to give you my favorite picks from this class, because there's a lot out there that you can choose. Now, I want to give you a couple of disclaimers at the very beginning of the show. I'm pre-recording this, so things could have changed, especially in the realm of one commit that we're going to be talking about that's part of my list. So if that has changed and made me look like a fool now, I don't think it's going to. You can just insert one of my honorable mentions into that spot that is taken by that individual at this point. So that's what we're going to do. I've got 5 picks, my favorite commits that I've decided upon to give you for this class, and some honorable mentions amongst that before we get to number 1. I also want to remind you that this is not some definitive list where you can say, well, he said this is the best one because so-and-so. No, this is just for my own reasons and logic. Would love to hear yours too as we go throughout the stream today. And keep in mind too, that we've already done a transfer portal video for the ones that came through that avenue to be part of this class as well. And there's some really good ones in there. I think some picks that maybe you'd be surprised by. So go check that out too if you haven't. So let's dive into this one right here. The top 5 favorite picks for me in the 2023 commit class, those traditional high school, junior college guys that I want to bring to your attention. We'll start with number 5. That's where we're going to start working our way down. Braden Joyner. That is the one name that you need to remember from this class because of a lot of reasons. First of all, he was the first one to sign on to this class, to be a part of it from the very beginning, to be part of the Brian Harsin era of this class, stayed on through the Hugh Freeze, taking over for this part of this class, and has done, I think, a commendable job of remaining committed, obviously, but committed to being a recruiter himself for this class. And we talk a lot about these first guys that sign on to be big recruiters for this class. They become the ambassadors, in a sense, if they want to be, of the class. I'm the first one that was here. Come join with me. We're going to do something special. And you saw him doing that time and time again. You know, I think a lot of people are probably not anticipating him playing a lot early just because of the transfer portal offensive line situation that was brought in. And we all know the deficiencies that have been with the offensive line at times over the past few seasons. So really anyone is fair game to play, even Braden Joyner at this point. All he's got to do is go out there and show he's the best one to take on the job. And he's going to be an interior offensive lineman. And we know there's some spaces available at that position. And he's probably more likely going to be a guard, right? And even though he has some experience at the center position. So for those reasons, for being committed the whole way through the first commit, and being a recruiter himself for us, and being at a position of need, I have to include him in my list because, let's be honest, he's basically the whole reason we're even having this discussion at this point, is because he decided to get us started off on the right foot. Let's move on to number 4. A lot of these similar conversations that we're going to have with this guy that we had with Braden Joyner, because he's part of the offensive line retool, rebuild, refit, however you want to put that in. Connor Lew, a guy who was committed to someone else. So there's a couple storylines in this for Hugh Freeze. The fact that he was able to pull all this together, the fact that he was able to flip so many high school and other guys that were high school commits and guys that were committed to other places, but also pull in guys from the transfer portal. So he's part of that element of pulling over guys, flipping them from other commitments. Connor Lew was a guy that really felt like he was going to be the real kickstart for the Brian Harsin era of this class, and decided to go somewhere else. And a lot of people were really discouraged by that. And I understand rightfully so, because he's a guy we really needed at a position of need, not just offensive line, but interior offensive line, probably a center position. So when you look at him, this is probably the same type of scenario that you see with a Braden Joyner, with the understanding of who came in on the offensive line transfer portal wise. Probably the anticipation would be not playing a lot early, but probably some. My hope personally, my selfish hope, is that we can make it work with a lot of these transfer portal guys and let these other individuals grow into their time here at Auburn, redshirt, and then have a full 4 years together where they can work together as some of those guys that are here for 1 year, maybe 2 years, start leaving and going off and doing what they want to do. But Connor Lew, the fact that we were able to flip him, kind of kickstart, reignite the recruiting cycle for the Auburn Tigers under Hugh Freeze was a humongous thing, a big thing for us as fans. Number 3, and I think this is going to be a little bit, I'll say, not confusing, but I think most of you would put this one probably at number 1. And this is why I say, do not stress about me having things out of order, how you think they should be. This is my personal list I want to share with you guys and see what you think about it. Number 3, Keldrick Falk. A lot of people consider him when you point to a class and look at somebody and say, this is the key of our class. Keldrick Falk is going to be that for a lot of people. Some other storylines that we've already talked about are present here as well when talking about flipping him from a power program like Florida State, even though they haven't been doing well as of late. They're still a power program traditionally. And so close to Auburn, too. You know, this is a guy that literally lives between the two of them and could have gone anywhere. Both are relatively close to family. Both would have given him great opportunities to go to the next level. Both are good programs, even though they both were down the last couple of years. And he decided originally to go to Auburn. So it's another one of those stories with Connor Lew, you know, feeling like he was going to be the thing that kickstarted. Then Keldrick Falk we thought he would be the kickstart to this class under Brian Harsin, and he wasn't. And so what you really are seeing is the repairing, the reversing of the trends that happened seemingly under Brian Harsin for whatever reason, and coming back to the way we want it to be. Keldrick Falk, by all intents and purposes, is, you know, some people consider him a 5-star now at this point, if you care about the stars, but he is really going to be one of those guys you look at maybe like a Derek Hall and compare him to that. He seems to have the personality to kind of maybe fill that role too that Derek Hall seemed to have at times. So that's why I had to include him on my list. Let's be honest. If I didn't include him on my list, y'all would be yelling and screaming at me. And I understand why, but I don't want to do the easy thing and just pick him as my favorite simply because of perception and prestige and stars and all those things. Even though those things are warranted, those things are valued by myself. I just want to make sure that I thought a little bit more critically about why I would consider someone the favorite part of my class. Number 2, and this is where it gets tricky because, as I said, I recorded this beforehand because I'm on vacation right now. If you're watching this the week it premiered, Jeremiah Cobb. So this is the day after National Signing Day. If he didn't end up signing with Auburn, well, just insert some of the honorable mentions that I'm going to talk about in just a second into this thing. So we'll see if it's awkward or not. I believe that he's going to sign with Auburn as he said he would, as he's planned all along to do it with his teammates on the true, well, what was once the true National Signing Day. Why is this number 2? For a lot of reasons. Number 1, somewhat of a backyard local kid type of guy. Montgomery is literally a stone throw away from Auburn, a 45-minute drive, probably about almost an hour compared to where he's probably located, and his school's located at Montgomery Catholic. But if you paid attention to anything this fall season for high school athletics and in Alabama, he was tearing it up. I mean, just scoring touchdown after touchdown, 100-yard after 100-yard game, just tearing it up left and right. One of the best running back prospects that we've seen Auburn have a chance to get in quite some time, and feels like that guy that's going to set the stage for the next great wave of running at Auburn. Not to dismiss who's here. I am super happy about Jarquez, Damari, Sean Jackson, Brian Body, who's coming in as a transfer, and everybody else. But this really feels like the beginning of something really special for the running game with Jeremiah Cobb being a very versatile guy. I can't wait to see him like grow into himself here at Auburn and maybe be the Tank Bigsby and a different type of back, right? No one's going to be Tank Bigsby. I mean, honestly, who has a tank in there for their name after all. But I'm really excited for him. Hopefully, I'm not having egg on my face right now, and hopefully he's stuck with us. And that's why I would put him as number 2 in my high school commits and signees. So Here's your honorable mentions regardless of that, but insert them here, I guess. Move everybody up and insert someone into number 5 then in this discussion. I'm going to give you some other ones in heavy on the offensive lineman here because of the need, as we've talked about ad nauseum on this video, every video we've done basically for the last 2 years, the need to rebuild the offensive line unit. And yes, you can do that with the transfer portal. We've discussed that in that video, and I'm really excited about that part of it. But you really want to build from the ground up a future there. And this feels like it's starting, not just with Braden Joyner, but with Connor Lewis. I'm going to give you these 3 names: Tyler Johnson, the Texas Tech flip; Isaiah Miller, the Ole Miss flip; Clay Wedden, the Michigan State flip. All 3 of those guys across the board. I mean, essentially, if you think about it, amongst that group right there, you've got, and I should say Isaiah Miller, I don't believe was a flip from Ole Miss. He was just, or was he actually? I can't remember now. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You got 3 interior offensive linemen: Clay, Braden, Connor, and Isaiah and Tyler would be out offensive tackles. So in theory, they all could just kind of grow up together and be the new wave, the new beginning for this offensive line as a group. Hopefully some of them will play early, and I believe they will. But that's why I include them in my honorable mentions. And then Kay and Lee, big surprise, maybe not surprise, but just a pleasant surprise that a lot of people were hoping and anticipating for on early signing day, kind of to cap off that day. Big cornerback that you want to get. And you stole him from Ohio State. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. I mean, that was like the Keldrick Falk thing was great that day, but Kay and Lee, that was nice. So those are my honorable mentions on that. Many others that we could talk about there. Number 1, and as I did in the transfer portal video for this edition, or this, I guess you call it series, I'm going to surprise you a little bit. Number 1 for me is J.C. Hart. I believe it's Jacorius Hart, but J.C. Hart out of Lochapoka. Backyard guy. So let me just back it up here. So for those of you that watch the transfer portal video, you know how big I am on, like, I guess I'll call them sentimental reasons to rank somebody in like a list if I'm going to do that. And he checks this box for me, much like that individual in that video did. Go check that out if you want to see what that was. J.C. Hart, a guy who committed early and stayed committed and could have gone somewhere else. A backyard guy coming right outside of Auburn, basically the Auburn area. It's just a few miles away. Stay committed to us. So I like that aspect of it too. But what I also like is what I hear about the character of the kid. And I don't know the kid individually, but what I hear, what I see, what I'm being told when I read about him is what really excites me about him. But what I like is a versatile type of guy who can do a lot. And when you're in high school, you play both ways a lot of the time. You do all these things. But what I was impressed with early on in his high school time this senior year, I saw a lot of times where he was not just contributing on both sides of the ball, but doing really big things. He's going to be a defensive back for us, cornerback, most likely. And he was getting his interceptions, fumble recoveries, things like that. But he was scoring receiving touchdowns, being involved in other things out there. So for me, J.C. Hart was a guy that kind of won my heart, if you want to play around with that, early on in the recruiting cycle and hasn't let go. So that's why I have to put him at number 1 for me. And I know there's probably a lot of people like, come on, Keldrick Falk, but I get that. I understand your reasoning why that. So that is my top 5 favorite signees from this class. Would love to know your thoughts about my list down in the comments section below. Keep doing that if you've been watching it throughout the premiere process, where it technically was a live stream. We appreciate you doing that, but be sure to share it after the fact if you haven't done so as well. Reminder for what to anticipate here on the channel. I am on vacation during this week, so we don't have any regular scheduled live streams outside these videos we've had ready for you on the Good Morning Auburn edition at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. There will be another one, a big one tomorrow that you don't want to miss, kicking off the 2024 class. As always, check out those links in the description for ways you can help support our content. You can be a channel member, a booster club member. There's other things that you can do there to help support. But the biggest thing you can do is just be here, be part of our little family within the Auburn family, and obviously smash that like button on the way out. Love to hear your comments down below if you haven't done that already. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.